بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask him peace and blessings on his beloved and our beloved Sayyidina Muhammad sallallaho alayhi wa sallam. We continue the chapter. We started the section in the Muwatta on Muswwa, as Shah Waliullah has expanded on his commentary, Muswwa, the commentary of Muwatta, that is, called Muswwa. And so we have to, whereas we started Athaan last week, so today the first chapter is it being rewarded, is beloved, was rewarded, being mustahab, that the listener, the one who hears the Azan, repeats the words of the Adhan. So Imam Malik narrated from Ibn Shihab, who narrated from Athaan bin Yazid alayhi, who narrated from Abu Sayyid al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when you hear the Adhan, then say the same as what the mu'adhan, the caller to the Adhan, says. If you don't mind. Sorry. إذا سمعتم النداء, if you hear the Adhan, فقولوا مثل ما يقول المؤذن, then say what the mu'adhan, repeat what the mu'adhan says. Shah Waliullah says, قلت وبه قال أهل العلم إلا في حيعلتين فيقول لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. And this is what the people of knowledge say, except for when Hayya ala salah is said and Hayya ala al-falah, because there's different narration for that, in which the repetition La hawla wa la quwwata, instead of repeating the words Hayya ala salah and Hayya ala al-falah, say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hawla, there's no might and strength except for Allah. Meaning the only person that can bring the person to do the good, the caller can call, but at the end of the day it is Allah will bring them and make them, give them tawfiq to come to the house of Allah. The chapter on yustahabu du'a aqib al-adhan, that the chapter on it being mustahab, it's rewarded, it's a good thing that to make a dua after the adhan. Imam Malik has narrated from Abu Hazim bin Dinar, who narrated from Sahal bin Sa'ad as-Sa'adi radiallahu anhu, that he said that two times that the doors of the heavens are opened up, and very little of their prayers are rejected. Meaning very few prayers are rejected, meaning most of the prayers the person makes at his times. One is at the time of the call to prayer. At the time of the call of prayer, when the adhan is called, at that time du'as are accepted. I mean, we have 5 chances a day. If we hear the adhan coming to the masjid, then we should, most of us, the adhan is being made, but whether we're making dua or not, like we should treasure that moment and make dua, because du'as are accepted. And the second is in the saf, fi sabilillah. Fi sabilillah mean in the battlefield, the row in the battlefield. So the combatants, when they're facing the enemy, when they're in the rows, their du'as are accepted at that time. So if you know somebody is in a combatant and he's in a saf, ask him to make dua for you, unless you go yourself, but let's not get into that. Adhan for subh before its time, before the fajr time has started. Yahya has said, that Imam Malik said, that for the morning prayers, Fajr, Subh, the call to prayer is made before Fajr, as opposed to all the other prayers, meaning before the time of Fajr is entered. And he goes, Imam Malik said that I don't see for any other salat this leeway is given. Shah Waliullah said, wa alayhi Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i has this view on this narration, according to Imam Malik. وقال أبو حنيفة لا يحتسب بالأذان قبل. He says that it's not considered. The adhan before Fajr is not considered before the time of Fajr. So if you notice in Masjid Nabawi, there's 2 in Medina especially. There's 2 adhans. One before Fajr, and generally is considered the adhan for Tahajjud, and one is after. But Imam Hanifa does not consider that a adhan. That's not a valid adhan. That's not an adhan for Fajr. While other Imams say no, the adhan for Fajr can be made before the time of Fajr. And there can be arguments made both ways, and he put all the narrations together, not just this one hadith collection, put all the hadith collection, then arguments can be made each way, that the adhan that was made, even if you see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding the adhan, the earlier that was made is disregarded, follow the adhan of so and so. Fajr is an exceptional case because there's one thing that's different from it and other prayers, which is that you're asleep. So if you make it earlier, then people wake up and then they can pray salat right at the start time. That is a intention made to pray at the earliest time, then you need a bit of time buffer to wake up, to make wudu, to get ready, pray sunnahs, so it gives a chance for a person to wake up and then also to pray on time as well, as early as possible. But as for there's difference of opinion on this, whether there's a two adhan, or even if it's a one adhan. This is referring to only to one adhan. Maybe the ulama in Medina, they've reconciled it's around two adhans. But here it's talking about only the one adhan. Adhan Fajr is permitted to do the Fajr adhan before its time. It is mustahab for a musafir that to make adhan without emphasis. So traveler, musafir, so it's less emphasized for him to make adhan and iqama, while iqama is more emphasized than adhan. Imam Malik narrated from Nafi, narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that he will not do more than the iqama in the journey except in Fajr. Meaning that for the other four salats, he would not. Again, what's the difference between the other four salats? Everyone's asleep. So you have to wake everybody up. So the azan serves another purpose other than actually a call to the time of the prayer. It's also to wake the people up. So he would not only in Safar, Abdullah bin Umar. Why is Abdullah bin Umar's action so important? Because he's a Sahabi of the Prophet, obviously, because he wouldn't do anything except what Rasulullah taught him. But also he's been vouched for by the senior Sahaba as a person who was known to have the most istiqamah, steadfastness in sticking to Rasulullah. Like he would not deviate even a little bit or do anything. Like he was known for his strict imitation of Rasulullah in everything. So he's very particular. So even Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, despite all the trials, Sahaba had differences, battles were fought, disagreements were had, right? It's a fact of history. But in all of that, she said the person who had the most istiqamah, steadfastness, like he would not move, like change, despite the world changing around him, and sticking to what Rasulullah. He was known for his his imitation, strong imitation of Rasulullah. Therefore, like his word matters. And this is also considered what they call like the golden chain, you know. Imam Malik, who narrate from Nafi', who narrate from Darul. This is considered the strongest narrations, that these three people are on it, because of their honesty, their memory, and so forth. Anyway, so he would not only, he would make adhan in Fajr, but not in the other salats. If somebody did make the adhan, it said that adhan is for the Imam, so that it gathers the people towards it. Adhan is for the Imam, for the people gathered towards him, right? Because you're making jama'ah. What's a focal point of the jama'ah? Is there's Imam and there's a salat being led, right? So he said that adhan is only for the Imam to lead salat. If you're traveling in a caravan and you're all together, you're not calling anybody. In the old days, think about it. Now we're in highly populated areas. You're not calling the whole community. You're a caravan that's traveling. When adhan is done, is to wake the people up so they can join the jama'ah for Fajr. In the other salats, if they did do that, that doesn't serve any purpose, right? Because they're there already, just a small group of people traveling together. We don't need to call anybody else. Wallahu a'lam. Malik narrated, this was his ijtihad. Malik narrated from Hisham and Urwa that he narrated from his father that he said that if you are in a journey, if you want, make adhan and make iqama. And if you want, then make iqama and don't make adhan. You have a choice with the adhan. You can make the adhan or not make the adhan. Iqama is made. In both cases, adhan is made. But if you want, iqama is made. Like if you're praying salat, make iqama. But if you don't want, if you want to omit it, like I said last week, if you're in an aeroplane, don't make adhan. Don't make, we were talking about raf'u sawt, making adhan loud. If you start shouting takbir, Allahu Akbar on the aeroplane, I don't know you. So, anyway, astaghfirullah. Shah Waliullah says, I say, and upon this are the people of knowledge. Imam Shafi Rahimahullah, he said, Tarkul adhani fi safari akhafu minhu fil hadr. That leaving the adhan in a journey is more lighter than leaving it while in hadr, when you're in resident, when you're not traveling. So meaning that it's something that is excused. It's not so emphasized. While when you're at home, like if you're in your town or especially in the masjid, obviously you have to do it. You should do it as wajib or wajib al-kifayah. Somebody has to do it. It's an obligation, has to be fulfilled. But in travel, it's not so emphasized. It is mustahab for the person by himself that if he's in the outback, he's out in the desert, that he makes adhan, and this is there's no emphasis on this. Tawqeed. Tawqeed means that it's not stressed. He should do it, but it's not stressed. Like it's not compulsory for him to do it. So Malik narrated with his chain that Abu Sayyid al-Khudri radiallahu anhu narrated that he said, if you are among your flock, of goats or whatever, or you're in the outback, badiyat, like in the desert, in the outback, in the countryside, and you make adhan, then raise your voice with your adhan. So somebody's by himself, he's herding his goats, or whatever, he's away from society, he's outback, he's in Australia, he's in the bush. So he should raise his voice with the adhan. We mentioned this last week as well. Imam Malik narrated that Yahya bin Sa'id narrated from Sa'id al-Musayyib that he said, whoever plays in a barren land or outback or like in the country or the desert, an empty land, then the angels come and they pray on his left and right. And when he makes the adhan and establish that the angels stand behind him, the likes of mountains. Like it looks like he's by himself. But when he makes adhan and iqamah, they come and they join him in the prayer on his left and right, and they stand behind him. وراءه ملائكة أمثال الجبال, like mountains, like huge malaika, they stand behind him. قلت وهو قول الجديد للشافعي. This is the قول الجديد in the Shafi'i school madhab. There are views that are classified as jadid and qadim. Jadid is when he came to Egypt, that period at the end of his life, and it's like he reviewed his school again. He looked at masail differently, and he reviewed and his principles in his school and new issues and incorporated those into his school. So the ulama of the Shafi madhab, they generally follow the jadid, the new school, as opposed to old school. In certain masail, they refer back to the old school. But it's something that you'll see in the fiqh books. They call the new school and the old school. So when he moved to Egypt, for whatever reason, in Egypt, the Egyptians are happy they got the qawl al-jadid, the Egyptian version, put it that way. Like version 1, version 2, maybe, Allah alam. But it's a mujtahid, right? It's not his mood changed when he went to Egypt. He drank from the Nile, and then he's like he changed like his view because his mood changed. The weather was nicer there or something. No, it's a mujtahid. It's a qualified scholar, and a mujtahid mutlaq who's at that caliber of scholarship, which unfortunately we don't find today. It could happen again, but we don't have that today. The reality is we don't have people like that today. And it's probably we probably won't have it again. It would be surprising if somebody like that existed, again. What about iqamah for the one for salat that is missed? So we previously read, Imam Malik narrates, and he quotes the previous hadith. Remember the hadith that we read about when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they slept in and they missed Fajr. So adhan was called, and Rasulullah ordered with adhan and iqamah for the missed salat. Imam Malik is narrated from Ibn Shihab, who narrated from Sa'id al-Musayyib, from that hadith that Rasulullah ordered Bilal to make iqamah for salat. Shah Waliullah says, قُلْتُ الْقَوْلِ جِدِيلِ الشَّافِي, the new school of Shafi'i says that iqamah is done, not the adhan. Imam Hanifa Rahimahullah says adhan is done and iqamah. And this is also the old view of Imam Shafi'i Rahimahullah. So there's a difference whether adhan is done for a missed prayer. There's a difference of opinion on that. And you have to accept why Shah Waliullah he reduces it like this, like he boils it down. What he's saying is that these two views are two big imams, like Imam Shafi, Imam Hanifa, have this view that differ, accepted that these are valid views. Else we're not going to. This is not something to be. Now the Shafi'is, if you go detail in their books, they'll argue their points with their narrations and so forth. The Hanafis in their books, they'll go through their narration. Malikis will go to Hanbalis and others as well. They'll go through their books. But at the end of the day, he said these are like two different views, and the arguments are solid on both sides, and they're basically, you just have to agree to disagree. Else, if you do more and then you bring it out in the public, there's going to be, because at the beginning, why did he write this book? There's commentary. He said, the ikhtilaf got too much. 300 years ago, he's talking. The difference of opinions too much. So Allah inspired me through ilham, like inspired my heart to the Muwatta Imam Malik. And through this book, he's trying to show that these are acceptable views of these. It's not one or the other. It's not so black and white. We have to accept that there are two legitimate views in our jurisprudence. Even though he's a big Hanafi scholar, Shah Waliullah is a great Hanafi jurist, right? But his father was a great Hanafi jurist. I was reading a book of his the other day, Shah Abdul Rahim, his father. He was one of the 28 ulama who worked on the council of Aurangzeb, Alamgir Aurangzeb, who was the emperor of India. And he ruled the greatest extent of India historically, probably the biggest population in the world, one of the few rulers that ruled. and he lived for a very long time, mashallah, and he was in charge of the council. There's 28 ulama. Mawlana Nizam Burhanpuri was the one that, rahmullah, was in charge of the council of 28 ulama. And every day he used to present several pages to Aurangzeb Alamgir, the Emperor of India. He used to present every day a few pages. He was a great scholar. He was a king. Very few kings that we've had in history were like great imam. Not just like he studied and that's like he did it like 20 years ago. When there's muftis, team of 28 muftis, and if you look at them, they're from Bengal, they're from Kashmir, they're from Sindh, they're from like the furthest extent from Bihar, from the furthest extent of the empire. The greatest scholars that were there, they were collected, and they created this encyclopedia. It wasn't just encyclopedia, it was a manual by which the judges ruled for like 200 years. And it's still a reference book for the Hanafi scholars today, Fatawa Hindiya, Fatawa Lamgiriya, Fatawa Hindiya, it's known as. So, and it references 120 other encyclopedias before it. So it's an amazing masterpiece of work. But the king, the alim that was in charge of the council, every day used to come and read to the king several pages. And subhanAllah, sometimes the king would catch their mistakes. Shows you how great of a scholar he was. Like they had to, like, it's mentioned that he had to grovel and apologize for the mistakes that they made. Because the king is emperor, like you can't just say, I'm sorry, I'll get it right next time. No, you have to, with a lot of asking forgiveness, and that they will fix it. So he was that type, like he was a scholar, but he never took money from Baytul Mal. I mentioned this on the side so that just a note, sometimes the people's name come up. So who's Shah Waliullah? That's the son. The father was one of those 28 ulama. At that time of his life, he decided to cut off from the world, just going to focus on worship. And he had to come out of sort of like retirement. You know, like the rest of his life he dedicated to worship, and he wasn't going to teach or like do any sort of involving people, worry about his relationship between him and Allah. And then the emperor ordered, no, you have to come, you have to be on, and he had to come out of retirement to work. So the type of people that are involved in it, not just great scholars and academics, but they're also people great taqwa and ilm, great taqwa and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So his son is, and if you read about him, like I was reading one of his books, Darul Thameen, not Darul Thameen, Darul Thameen, I think. I was looking at a few days ago, one of his books. He talks about all the dreams that he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his father. It's like 100 dreams, you know. Like he's talking about this. I was doing. I mean, these people are not like just people of words. They lived this knowledge. You know, they were ahlullah. And he talks about his father. My father had a dream about this salawat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the salat al-Nabi, durud. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi barik wa sallim. My father saw this and he recited to Rasulullah in his dream. And Rasulullah smiled, he was like he's happy with it. Like he made dua for the Prophet, you could say, and Rasulullah heard it and he said, Rasulullah in the dream smile. Because Shaitan can come in the form of Rasulullah even in a dream. If you see Rasulullah in a dream, you've seen Rasulullah. Anyway, so Imam Shah Waliullah says, Al-Qawl al-Jadid, the new school of Shafi'i, Imam Shafi'i, that he said that you make iqama and no adhan. Imam Hanifa says otherwise. It being wajib to face the Kaaba in salat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قال الله تعالى, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, قد نرى تقلب وجهك في السماء فلنولينك قبلة ترضاها فولي وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وحيثما كنتم فولوا وجوهكم شطره. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allah sees you turning your face to the heavens. Keep turning your face. Then Allah orders that make your qibla. Allah will change your qibla to that which pleases you. And so turn your face towards the direction of Masjid al-Haram, which is the Kaaba, Masjid al-Haram, Makkah. And wherever you are, فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرًا, then wherever you are in the world, then you turn your face towards it. So the qibla before that, so we explained that. So Malik narrated from Abdullah bin Dinar, who narrated from Abdullah bin Umar, that he said that we were in Quba, when the people were in Quba, one of the masjids in Medina, and they were praying Fajr, somebody came and announced that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon him is revealed the ayat of Quran last night that we face the Kaaba, so face it. So they were facing towards, they were praying in the middle of prayer, they were facing towards Sham, they turned towards the Kaaba. Imam Malik in the Salat, Imam Malik rahimahullah narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id that Sa'id ibn Musayyib said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sa'id ibn Musayyib is a tabi'i, so the narration doesn't have a sahabi in it. So this hadith is called a mursal hadith. It's still used by the fuqaha because Sa'id bin Musayyib is saying it. Sa'id bin Musayyib is the one who narrates. He's like the most senior tabi'i we accept all the narrations from him. Right? Like his life is an open book, his scholarship is an open book. So mursal hadiths are weak hadiths generally, if you want to put them, be strict about it, but they're not weak to the point to be rejected. Because it's a tabi'i that's narrated, and the tabi'i is not any tabi'i. It's not like anybody off the street that's tabi'i. This is one of the senior scholars, Hassan Basri, Sa'id Musayyib, Wais Qarni. These like they're like the best of the best of the tabi'in. Imam Hanif is also tabi'i, but he's like considered like he's a tabi'i, but like he's a very junior tabi'i in the sense he didn't spend extended time with Sahaba radiallahu anhu. But here, Sa'id Musayyib like grew up his whole life among Sahaba. There's Sahaba like that some tabi'een are children of Sahaba, obviously. They didn't see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they were born in the house of Sahaba. Like Urwa bin Zubayr, his name coming repeated again and again. Urwa was his brother's a Sahabi, father's a Sahabi, mother's a Sahabi, grandfather Sahabi, great-grandfather Sahabi, great-grandfather Sahabi. So, but he's not. He was born afterwards. So anyway, Imam Malik narrated from Yahya bin Sa'id, narrated Sa'id Musayyib, meaning the Sahabis omitted. But who's omitting it? You have to look at that as well. Okay, it's a mursal hadith, but this narration, he's saying that Rasulullah said, he's left out the Sahabi for whatever reason. And the Sahabi, remember, Sahabi is a character, they're all adul, they're not under question. Their character, their Sahaba, we don't question their memory, because they will not narrate something they're weak in memory. They stop narrating when they feel like they're going to make mistakes. So for them, there's like a certificate given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prayed when he came to Madinah Munawwarra 16 months to the Baytul Maqdis. Then the Qibla was changed 2 months before the Battle of Badr. I say the Qibla is a direction, Shah Waliullah says in his commentary, the Qibla is the direction that is a condition for the direction that you face for Qibla. And when this ayah, when it was revealed, فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةَ تَرْضَاهَا, that we will change the Qibla to that which pleases you. Allah is addressing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then istiqbalul Kaaba, facing the Kaaba, is a condition for Salat. You have to face the right direction. And in this hadith is a dalil. There's a proof in this hadith, there's a proof that a hukam can be abrogated. So there was a different hukam before, and then if he follows whatever was there from before, that's like basically that's fine, it's correct, it's valid. And that whoever prayed, and there's a rule here that he's taking from this, that if you followed something based on whatever knowledge that you had, right, based on your own ijtihad, like you don't have any, you're in the middle of it, you don't have your phone, let's say, very hard, you don't have a charge phone, and yeah, it's night time. During the day, yeah, sunset, or it's a cloudy day, you can't figure out which direction the east and west is. So then you have to use whatever information you can get, then you pray. Then you find out later that it's correct. You find out that it's somebody that it's the wrong direction. Then what? So what happened to the salat that you prayed in the wrong direction? So that the ulama say that you don't have to repeat the salat, and upon this is the majority of the scholars. Majority of the scholars. So there is a view among some scholars that the salat has been repeated. If your time is still there, right, you're still obliged to correct the salat. What about the Qibla, the chapter on the Qibla from a person who's not in Makkah? All right, if you're in Makkah, Kaaba is there, you pray in the direction of Kaaba. Imam Malik narrated from Nafi, narrated from Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu, that he said, that which is between the east and the west. This is because he's in Madinah Munawwarra. So if you're in Madinah Munawwarra, you're praying south. So east and west is, so imagine this is the south, opposite, like this is the south, and there's east, I'm just trying to get it right, east and west, so east and west and south, north is behind, right? So not the actual direction, that's west, so I'm just not confused. So if you're in Madinah Munawwarra, you're facing south. If east and west means what? In the horizon, in the direction of Medina, Makkah, from Medina. If you face in the southerly horizon, in the general direction, that's fine, which is like 45 degrees each way, right? Some imams say that's 30 degrees each way, if I remember, because that is more like accurate, like in terms of but basically in the general direction of the city of Makkah. Imagine in the old days, there's no GPS, there's no thing, then it can't be like so precise. Like how are you going to get exactly on the Kaaba? It's impossible. Even this mosque, like, we move a little bit, like we're in Africa somewhere, we move a little bit, we're in Europe, because of how far we are. So it's, you can, to get it exactly, I heard that Listerfield Mosque is the Roval. That is the most accurate in the whole of, because that was all farms, so they had the equipment set up in all like far off places. Apparently it's like dead on the Kaaba or something like that. Allahu A'lam, I heard anyway. So so between the east and the west, when you say east and west, this is of course applicable for who? The people in Madinah Munawwarra. And then for us, it'll be the general direction of the west. Obviously, the Qibla has been set in masjids, like it's been measured and checked accurately, except once upon a time. So for those who don't know, our Qibla used to be 23 degrees off. And I think what they did was they maybe made it on a flat map or something like that, as opposed to, so then I had to, it took 2 years to change it, took a while to change it. There was resistance actually, and it didn't make sense because people were resisting not to do it. He said 30 years we prayed in this mosque. Well, if you've done it 30 years wrong, then you should stop now doing wrong. Now you know your salat are fine. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Sahaba worry about their salat towards Masjid al-Aqsa, Bayt al-Maqdis, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allah will not waste your iman. Right? But 23 degrees is within all the mazhabs, right? All the schools. It's fine. Firstly, your salat is fine because you're in a general direction. But now that we know that it's correct, the correct is straight, right? Then we should correct it. And they didn't believe me, so I had two ship captains, Bangladeshi ship captains. I had them check. They use their computers in there's only two people in our community that know, and I don't know any pilots, ship captain and pilots. They have to use what's called a great circle, a rule, not compass. It's called a great circle. The shortest distance on the surface. That's how you calculate the Kaaba. Between, if Kaaba is point A and any other point on the surface of the earth is point B, then what is this? How do you calculate the Qibla? It's the shortest distance on the surface of the earth, right? Some people might get too clever, say like through the earth, or some people use a flat map. You become confused. But he used in port, one of the port managers. He used his ship, the computer, and he drew up a map, and it was exactly. You find them now, Qibla locator and Qibla, which draws out a line to your spot from the Kaaba. What is that line? It's the shortest distance on the surface of the earth. So if you're away from it, then so this is Shah Waliullah said this is in regards to the people of Medina. As Imam Shafi Rahimahullah said, that bil ijtihad, by your effort, by your you try to calculate by the actual Kaaba, and if you try to do it, if you go a little bit off left and right, then there's nothing upon the person. Like you try to get as close as possible to the Qibla, but your main thing is to get the general direction right. If you're far away from Makkah, and the ijtihad means what? Ijtihad means juristic. It's using your own, like you use some things. Sometimes you can use stars. You can use an app. The apps are not accurate. If you put 10 phones next to each other, do the compass thing, put it next to each other, they all come up with slightly different. They're not exactly. There's a few things that go into it, where the towers are and so forth. They're not 100% accurate. And I think we'll stop there, inshallah. I think that's sufficient for today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding. If you're in a building, may Allah save them. Somebody's in a prison. They try to use. In the old days, people knew signs, like there's moss on a tree, and if you don't, and if it's totally pitch black and you can you use your best estimation and you pray according to that, but you don't miss the salat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and tawfiq to practice what we say here. Any questions?